The crowd gathered along the edge of the training field, excitement buzzing in the humid morning air. Families, veterans, and curious civilians had come to witness the Navy SEALs demonstrate a grueling obstacle course, a showcase of strength and brotherhood few outsiders ever saw. Among them stood a quiet young woman named Emma, dressed in a simple jacket and jeans. She hadn't come for the spectacle. She hadn't come for the cheers. She had only come to watch. Emma kept her distance, hands shoved in her pockets, her dark hair tied back in a no-nonsense braid. To the casual eye, she looked like just another face in the crowd. Yet her gaze never wavered from the men running the course. She followed their every move, each rope climb, each muddy sprint, each breathless dive into the cold water pit, with a focus that seemed almost unnatural. For Emma, this wasn't entertainment. It was a memory tugging at her heart, a shadow of a life she once touched but had been forced to leave behind. On the field, Commander James Walker barked orders with a voice that could slice through steel. Decorated, respected, unbreakable, he was the kind of leader men would follow into fire without hesitation. But as he turned to scan the crowd between drills, his eyes locked, just for a moment, on Emma. He almost dismissed her until something caught his attention. As she adjusted her sleeve against the chilly breeze, a glimpse of ink flashed across her forearm. A trident, the unmistakable SEAL trident, but not the typical sharp-edged one. Hers was different, woven with a tiny anchor and a feather, etched with scars of fading ink. The commander's words faltered mid-sentence. The men stopped, confused by his sudden silence. His eyes widened, and for the first time in years, James Walker forgot where he was. Because that tattoo wasn't just a symbol. It was a story, and it was hers. Emma felt his stare and quickly pulled her sleeve down, heart pounding. She hadn't wanted anyone to notice. She wasn't here to be recognized. But when James Walker strode toward her, boots kicking up dust, she knew hiding was no longer an option. "You," he said quietly, his voice stripped of its usual command. "Where did you get that tattoo?" The crowd's chatter dimmed. A few people turned, sensing something unusual was happening. Emma swallowed hard. She could lie, walk away, disappear like she always had, but something in his eyes demanded truth. "It was my brother's," she said finally, voice trembling. "He earned it. He wore it, and after he didn't come home, I had it inked for him. For me." The commander's face tightened. He knew exactly who she was. Memories slammed into him, of a mission gone wrong, of a brave SEAL who had given everything so his brothers could live. That SEAL had a sister who waited at home, whose letters he carried folded in his chest pocket, whose words had kept him alive longer than anyone thought possible. Her name was Emma. Walker removed his cap, bowing his head. For a moment, the unshakable SEAL commander stood in silence before a woman who wasn't even in uniform. Then, lifting his eyes, he said softly, "Your brother saved my life. I owe him everything, and I never got to tell you that." The weight of his words cracked something inside Emma. She had carried her grief alone for years, never blaming the military, never demanding explanations, but always wondering if her brother's sacrifice had been remembered. Hearing it from the commander himself felt like a tide breaking loose. She whispered, "I thought he was just gone. That he was another name in the silence. I didn't know." "You need to know this," Walker interrupted firmly, though his voice shook. "On that night, when everything fell apart, he volunteered to hold the line. He knew the risk. We begged him not to. But he looked at us and said, 'My sister's waiting. I want her to know I did something that mattered.' He fought like 10 men so the rest of us could escape. Every breath I've taken since then is because of him." The crowd, listening now in rapt silence, felt the gravity of the exchange. Soldiers shifted uncomfortably, some with tears in their eyes. Emma covered her mouth, tears streaking her cheeks. Her brother hadn't just died. He had lived, in the truest sense. He had mattered. The SEAL commander made a decision in that moment. He turned back to his men and signaled for them to gather. They stood in formation, mud still dripping from their uniforms, waiting for orders. But instead of commanding another drill, he pointed to Emma. "Men," he said, voice steady, "this is the sister of one of the bravest warriors I've ever known. We stand here today because her brother gave everything he had. And she carries his legacy on her skin, in her heart. Today, we honor him. And we honor her. Without hesitation, the SEALs snapped to attention and saluted. One by one, their hands rose in perfect unison, a wall of respect aimed not at a uniform, not at a rank, but at Emma. The crowd erupted into silence, then tears, then applause. Emma stood frozen, overwhelmed, but in that moment, she no longer felt like the forgotten sister left behind. She felt like part of something larger, something unbreakable. Later, as the sun dipped low, Walker approached her again. His voice was gentler now. You didn't just come to watch, Emma. You came because part of you still belongs here. Your brother's courage didn't end with him. It lives in you, and if you ever doubt that, remember today. Emma nodded, clutching her sleeve where the tattoo lay hidden. For the first time in years, her grief felt lighter. Her brother's sacrifice wasn't just a wound, it was a torch, passed on to her. She had come only to watch. But she left carrying a reminder that some legacies are too powerful to remain silent. The message of that day spread far beyond the training field. It whispered through the ranks, reached the families of soldiers, and even inspired strangers in the crowd. It was a reminder that courage isn't just found on the battlefield. Sometimes it's in the quiet strength of those left behind, those who carry memory as fiercely as soldiers carry rifles. And for Emma, the girl who only came to watch, it was the day she realized her brother's voice still echoed, through the commander's words, through the SEAL's salute, and through the tattoo etched forever on her skin.